Hello. Today I have an Asus notebook PC, an S200E, that's completely dead. There's no power. Connecting the power doesn't charge, no lights come on, but the light on the charging brick comes on. So the charging brick is getting power. I'm just not sure if it's making power or if the problem is inside of the notebook itself. So start by checking the power on supply, see if that's sending anything. Don't want to bend any pins. Oh yeah, there's power. I just wasn't reaching the... Okay, so this is definitely sending power. When I connect it to the power jack, DC in, feels a little bit loose. And there's no indication anywhere. I imagine there should be an LED either on the front or side or inside. There's not. I'm just going to hold this off to the side and see if we get any power then. Nothing. Okay. I think I have to open it up. Yeah, the power jack definitely feels loose. So my instinct tells me that it needs a new power jack. But I won't really know until I can get inside there and look. Unless I get out my microscope and have a very close look, but that's quite difficult to do. Could maybe just try with my webcam here. Can't really see much. Okay, what's it going to take to get this thing apart? I can see, come on, autofocus. Several screws. I'm not sure if there are any screws in the feet. There is a screw missing. One screw missing. Yeah. Let's find out here. These are different lengths. So it's very important that I put them back together, put them back where they came from. So it looks to me like the screws in these corners I would have expected to be the same length, but they're not. And the fact that one screw is missing tells me that somebody has taken this apart in the past and didn't put the screws back in the same place. Now, the screw that came out of the center here is long. There are basically two size screws. There are some short screws and some long screws in here. And I'm a little bit concerned that maybe whoever put this together took one of the longer screws from the corner and accidentally put it in the middle and has caused some damage from the screw being too long. So let's see what it takes to get this apart. I can feel that the case is coming open quite easily, actually. It's definitely been opened before. I don't think I've ever been able to open a notebook computer without any sort of pry tools. The case is also cracked here by the SD card reader, or actually that's an air vent. So somebody had pried on this, but to my good fortune, that means it came open quite easily for me. Now, that power jack appears to be soldered on to the board. And in this case, that is the motherboard. That's the same system board that has the CPU on it. I'm just going to get a closer look. it does look a little bit corroded, doesn't it? Yeah, and I would expect to get power. This whole, I think it's this power jack. Okay, call the customer. I'm going to disconnect the battery. Might take the battery out, since there appears to be some water damage below the battery. Okay, I'm going to take the hard drive out as well to get access. Those screws appears to be missing, although that could be where the case screw goes through. Don't. Maybe. This has a mechanical Seagate hard drive in it. So I'm going to try the microscope and see if that'll help. So there's your problem. The pin inside of the power jack is completely just mashed into the end and no longer functioning. I don't think I'm going to be able to pry that out. I will try, but I don't hold out hope for that. So we'll see. Most likely that motherboard would need to come out, and then a new power jack would need to be soldered onto it. So I might look into what that, well, I'm definitely going to look into what that procedure entails and how hard it will be. So more to come. So I spoke to the customer and he is happy to proceed. I'm going to order, or I've ordered a new power jack. It's not going to be here for several days. So I'm going to piece this thing back together so I don't lose any of the screws or anything. And I will resume when the part arrives. Okay. I'm going to set this aside and wait for the parts to arrive. The power jack has arrived for this Asus VivoBook S200E. So today I'm going to take the motherboard out and attempt to desolder the existing jack and solder the new jack on, and then reassemble it. First thing I'm going to do is make sure that this jack actually fits. Power supply. It looks quite small. The package is very small. Okay. This will be my first foray into professional soldering. I've soldered before, but nothing this small. Or important. This cover is fairly loose. Just going to try to get it with my fingers. There we go. Power jack is there. I'm going to ground myself here. So I need to take out this motherboard. I can probably, I'll take the battery out, I can probably just slide it out from underneath this board. Obviously I'll need to undo those two screws. just going to turn my soldering iron on. I might start at 375. I'm not sure. I've got a new soldering station. I'm not sure about its temperature profiles. I don't really know where to set it, and I don't want to burn things up, so I'm going to start 375 and see if that'll work. I did some test soldering on an old motherboard, but I don't know what kind of solder they used, but it didn't melt unless I turned my iron up to 475. I think it was very, very hot. And I did manage to desolder and then resolder a couple of ports, the USB port, the VGA port, or no, an audio port. So I'm fairly confident I can do this safely and give the customer the repair that they need. If I wasn't, I wouldn't be attempting this, because the last thing I want to do is damage a customer's computer. I know that this computer is dead already, but that doesn't mean that it's any less important to them that I get this right. Here's the battery out. So this motherboard has several connections. I can see there's a CMOS battery. I might leave that connected. No, actually it's fixed pretty firmly into there. I'm going to disconnect the CMOS. Keyboard, this is for front lights, I think. Oh, front lights. There's a little daughter board there that's also going to the touchpad. This Ethernet jack has screws that are, I think, holding into the frame. There's a screw there that goes into the hinge. I'll disconnect the video. This fan and heatsink I'll take off. And then all the screws out of the motherboard. So I'll start here. I'm guessing there's going to be another screw under there, but I'm not certain. Warranty void if seal. So if I take the CPU cooler off of the motherboard, the warranty is void. Well, there's no warranty on this anymore anyway. This was loose. Very loose. Yeah, there's a screw under this tape. I might zoom us in a little bit, just bring the camera down. The two screws holding the fan in are the same screws that hold the heatsink on, and they're also the same as the battery screws. Same size. Wow. The thermal compound on the CPU, I've never seen this before. Usually it looks like they put on too much, but also not enough, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that's even possible, but I will definitely be fixing that. Now, I was a little bit nervous about the video connectors. They have this piece of tape. And usually that's it. The tape ensures that it's, you know, it's slid in place here, and the tape just ensures that it doesn't slide out. I'm hoping that that's the case here. Yeah, I can see that it's moving. Let's push on this little ear. There we go. Now there's tape holding that onto the motherboard. Okay. So it looks like the motherboard screws have these white arrows pointing toward them. There's 1, 2. These are different style screws, I think, than these. There's a black screw, black screw. There's a missing screw there. And there, I think those were from, oh, the battery's over there. I'm not sure. But when I put them back in, I need to remember there's no screw there. I might remove the hard drive just to get it out of my way. So there were only screws in these three positions for the hard drive. This one was missing. I'm starting to wonder if some of those screws aren't coming from the case cover. So these screws are similar to the ones that were holding the Ethernet jack in, the same color. I think they might be a tiny bit shorter. So I would need to be very careful about ensuring that I remember where all these screws go. Very short. Very short. So this daughter board is still connected to something to do with the display. So I'm going to leave it in here. Got the motherboard out. Wow, there's quite a bit of dirt and dust that has come through the keyboard. I can just see that there is like crumbs, just fine particles of junk in here underneath the CPU heatsink bracket. There's more thermal compound on this. There's like a protective tape on the circuit board around the CPU, just covered in thermal compound. I don't get it. And that wouldn't have been making any contact with the heatsink. It was just, I think, sloppy. Somebody put on thermal compound and didn't really care. Unfortunately, most of it on the CPU, only like 40 or 50% of that CPU was actually kept its compound. This power jack looks to be the right one. Try to clean this up a bit. New connector will go in like that. Let's see if we can make it fit. Very close. And we've got voltage on the board. Excellent. It's charging. And it's come on. All right, well, the computer is charging. I don't know if you can see the charge light here in the down in the bottom. The orange charge light is on. So the battery is charging. I can also see that on the screen that the battery is charging. So I am very happy. The date says Monday the 1st of July, so I presume this computer has not been online in some time, but that's a different story. So I'm going to let it sit here and charge for a bit and phone the customer. Thank you very much for watching.